the stop.
My goodness, what a save!
What a save! What a glove save there by...
What a stop! Looked like a sure goal.
You talk about an A+ save and maybe the save of the night.
Welcome to the Goalie Science Podcast, the podcast where we try to bridge the gap between goaltending science and peak performance. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Phillips, a physical therapist and goalie performance specialist. I'm joined as always by Dr. Ben Cernick and goalie coach Derek Bujan. Whether you're at home, at the rink, or in the car, grab a cup of your favorite beverage and let's drop the puck on this week's episode.
Welcome to the Goalie Science Podcast, the place where we used to do science. I'm Ben Cernick. I'm here with Jamie Phillips and Derek Bujan. I am back this week after being slandered once again. Guys, how do you feel about that?
I'm confused at how you can show up as a part-time guest on my podcast and then get to do the intro. I don't know how that works.
Well, we went through a period of time at the start where Jamie used to do the intro, and if you go back and listen to those episodes, it's like a 1 in 7 completion rate. You got the name wrong. He got his own name wrong. They're just...
Oh, that was before I made a voice recording and like a cool intro with music that everyone just heard. That took me 16 tries to get right. And I added Derek in later because I just didn't want to redo it. When we say and Derek Bujan, data isn't like the same tone because they recorded 6 different months apart.
The funnier part about that is still the intro is like 9 nice things about Jamie, and then it's like, oh, and also Ben and Derek are there too. It's like, well, what I don't know what greatest person of all time. He's the best. There is no one better than him. And also, here are his minions, Ben and Derek. That is
true. Well, first of all, that's true. Second of all, over 2 people, so 3 people, said that they enjoyed last podcast, and you weren't on it. So, if de facto, there is a weak link.
I got great reviews on the last pod. Non-stop good reviews.
I'm glad I wasn't there because it would have just been the laundry list of things that you told me, Derek, when I was playing, which is what set me back, I think, a lot of my career.
No, you were just an uncoachable human being, and now you're just adult, and you'll be an uncoachable elderly man, and then you'll be dead.
I was for sure uncoachable before like the age of 14. I agree.
But we'll definitely say nice things about you at your funeral.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right. This week, we're not talking about my mortality, but instead, we're going to be talking about why goalies don't stop shots from the faceoff dots anymore, which has seemingly become a thing in the NHL. So for those hockey fans, goalie fans who haven't been paying close attention for what feels like the 10th year in a row, save percentage down. Goalies, bad. But interestingly, we have a little bit of information on the fact that goalies are not getting beat in the scariest of areas anymore. Well, they are. They're getting beat right down the middle of the slot. That's still happening. But they're also getting beat all over the place on the flanks at higher rates. So to give a little bit of an example, if we are to look at basically like the line of inside the faceoff circle, in between the faceoff dot and the inside part of the faceoff circle, goals are going in at an increase of 5% in those spots this year compared to years past. And if you keep that line going towards the net, it's another 5%. So goalies are getting beat on the flanks. And this was my thing that I was interested with because I have some ideas of why it's happening. But I'm really curious what you guys think. Why are goalies getting beat from the flanks more this year than in years past? Thoughts?
Before we add our thoughts, when you put that stat in the group chat, there was no context. Like, what is the play? Are these plays off the rush? Are these Ovechkin one-timers? Are these rebounds? Like, what are we talking about here?
That's what we're here to talk about. Go ahead.
I figured out Ben's strategy. Is he gets the numbers for his job in his career, doesn't tell us what any of the numbers are, and then tells us we're wrong when we don't know what to mean.
And then he sits there in his smug stats office, and he just goes, "You guys are wrong because I have all the data."
We're getting yelled at for no reason here. No, there is no context necessary. I know there
is, because it's one thing if it's just like hopefully we talk about the shots through the arms because that's something I want to talk about later. If there is an increase of goals off the flank off the rush, it's a lot different than there's an increase of goals in the flank off one-timer, like in the Ovechkin and Stamkos spots. because those are very like those are different things. Those are very different situations, and and that would lead to a completely different conversation. So with your numbers that you run, is it just the shot map with those points, or is it like do you track that play?
I'm this first of all, actually not my numbers. This is just general stuff.
Any stat? I'm just assuming any stats are yours, even or not. They're just fine. That
Not mine. Don't yell at me. No, I don't have anything more. I literally just have what I told you. That stuff is going in more on the flanks and the outside. Like those, we'll call them like the off center flanks. So the ones like close to the middle of the ice. Like they're still, they're off to the side. They're not down the middle. I like to think of those like the 2-on-1 zones. If you think of like the lane a player takes on a 2-on-1, like I want you to think of those lanes as where these are coming from. I don't know if they're more on the rush. I don't know if they're more on power plays. I don't know anything other than what I was telling you. I just wanted to talk to see what you guys had been seeing. If it's something that you've been seeing in your own coaching, if it's stuff that you've been seeing in youth or pro hockey, that was it. And I got yelled at for trying to give you the opportunity to.
Okay, so I would have two guesses on why we're seeing this. I'm assuming you have heat maps on these, and that's kind of what you're looking at.
I do. That's exactly right.
They definitely there's more focus on protecting the middle of the ice. Significantly more. I think defensive zone coverage has become tighter, especially into the house. But we also know that pucks that cross the Royal Road, so those heat maps, I would assume, are probably passes or pucks that move across the Royal Road. But also, like, I don't know the number. How are we on power play percentage this year? Is power play goals up?
Ooh, I actually don't know. While you keep going, that's a really interesting one. I'll pull that up.
Yeah, well, I can also add in my thought too, because I agree exactly with what Derek said. I was going to say Royal Road, and I was also going to say Protected House. The two that I'm going to add, another stat question for stats guy Ben here, is are more odd man rushes like 2-on-1s and 3-on-2s, are those up over the year with different defensive structure and the increased speed of play? And then finally, I do know that more and more skills coaches are encouraging shooters to shoot from kind of that awkward RVH area that would fall under that flank, because skills coaches know goalies get confused or often make that wrong read in that position. So that I don't know if I can't say if there's an increase in RVH goals, but I can assure you that there's increase of shots from those areas where in previous years a shooter would have looked pass first rather than short side high or trying to pull the goalie out of position.
Yeah, that's sort of there.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
How many of these goals are on Stuart Skinner? Because Stuart Skinner, he's getting scored on from outside the faceoff dots. And I mean, I am a big Stuart Skinner fan. I pull for him, but it is very heartbreaking sometimes. But just even watching the Leaf game last night, and it was 4-0 with about 18 minutes left, and I think Tampa Bay scored 2 out of their 3 goals from Joe Wool's left side, basically faceoff dot, right where you said. And those were plays that were moved from right to left and quickly shot. So
those were also like he also had 2 that went off skates randomly on him last night too.
well, that's the Joe Wool signature, right?
That is truly like this is a fun one. We're gonna get immediately sidetrack here, but I remember in the offseason, Derek and I were talking about like Joe Wool had, again, for those who don't know, had an absolutely incredible season last year. Like a really, really, really good season. And before everyone yells at me and says that he gets hurt too much, you can't control that. Like if you're gonna randomly get run into and get a concussion, or you get bodied and you hurt your shoulder, like I don't know what to tell you. Like sometimes things are random.
You just have a soft skull. It's you just gotta be better. This has to be a better bone density.
Maybe it's a calcium issue. Like this is just a milk opportunity.
It's a bad ankle. He keeps spraining his ankle. What are you guys talking about?
No, go look at his career missed games. It's like shoulder, left ankle, shoulder, right ankle, head, back, left. It's just like the guy gets hurt in every possible way. He's had a pretty tough.
To be fair, like that's kind of what I feel like nowadays. Every time I wake up, it's like ankle, back. Something's wrong every time.
Yeah, well, that's again. We can unpack that later. Anyways, long story short, we were talking about Joe Wall in the summer, and he had a weird amount of low danger goals going last year. Like weird, doesn't really make any sense. And then you start pulling the video clips of where they come from, and it's just someone flinging a puck from like the corner of the blue line and the bench, and it hits off 3 guys and goes bar down. And then you're just like, all right, sure. Guess that's not great.
I remember the exact conversation because it was the numbers that supported his save percentage on like high quality scoring chances. It was top 3 in the league. Unbelievable. He was like top 7 in the league and like medium scoring chances. And I remember his percentage was like 27th. And I remember just saying to you, I'm like, does he just give up wrist shots and like nobody in front? Like, is he just giving up horrible goals? And you're like, no, he gives up the most amount of goals on like point shots that hit 3 bodies and go in. And now I can't unsee it.
It's every game, right? You see, talk about.
And I say that, I tell this to my clients, and they come in and they're just like, you can't unsee it. Once you see that, like that's all he gives up now.
Yeah, this is again, and like, this is not only his podcast, but like again, what a start to Joe Wall coming back after starting the season hurt. Like, holy cow, how good has he been the past few weeks?
Oh yeah, baby.
Oh, unreal. He's so much fun to watch. He's like, I don't know if you guys have. I don't always tell a ton of little goalies to play like or to watch professional goalies just because the game's so different, right? Like, you can't tell an 11-year-old to always go and watch what this goalie does because that, like, the stuff that NHL guys do, you just see different plays. It's not always the same game, obviously. Like, there's things.
There are about 100 comments on my Instagram that actually completely disagree with you.
Oh,
and many goalies are doing what they can to play like Vasilevsky when they're 5'1" and cannot do the splits. Yeah, man, did you find that stat? Like, going back to the original convo before we turn into the Joe Wall podcast of the week. Did you find that stat?
I'm still looking. I got distracted by Joe Wall.
You're buying time. I like it. All right.
Do we want to try to guess what the issue is with goaltending then in those areas?
Yeah, like, I have some thoughts. Like, I think this is a thought I've shared a few times, which is, I think my initial thought is I don't think there's like explicitly something super wrong with goaltending. I think you said it really well, Derek. There's been some stylistic changes to defensive zone, or teams are trying to defensively play a little bit different to make up for just how skilled offensive teams are now. But I think what happens, and I think back to my playing days, and Jamie, I'm sure you'd say the same, and Derek, when you're coaching, when teams are inconsistent with their defensive approaches, goalies get lost. Like, I think you mentioned Stuart Skinner. I watched him give up a goal last night where it was basically like a kind of an in-zone 2-on-1, and he played the shot really aggressively. And they slid it backdoor, and he just was like, did not have even remotely a chance of getting there. But it looked like he was expecting his D to just slide to the pass. And so he stayed really aggressive, which I think we would all say, like, hey, you have a backdoor one-timer off. You probably can't be heels in the white ice. So my first thought is I think there's a bit of defensive structure confusion, and that's leading to goaltending inconsistencies on those like little slip pass plays. Like, it's not the full Royal Road pass, but it's a little, like an 8-foot pass, which can be pretty tough to deal with, right?
My first thought is building off Derek's, where like more and more defensive zone structure is protect the house. So if you're going to protect the house, you're going to give up more shots on the outside. So if we're just seeing an increase of shots from the outside, you're going to start to see an increase of goals.
We're not even seeing that much of an increase in shots, though. It's just the scoring. So that's the interesting thing. It's a little bit more, but it's scoring at a disproportionate rate to the shooting.
I would say that maybe they're just better at shooting now.
Like that, or to get that pass has to get to the outside. So I wonder, like, again, we have to look at that stats. Is someone carrying that puck through to the outside, or that pass is coming from either the one side to the other, or is it going from the middle, forcing that goalie to move laterally? And we all know that like when goalies have to move laterally, there's a chance that they end up off angle. Woll gave up a one-timer not too long. I don't know which game it was. Pretty good one-timer, but he overslid. He went to the body, not the stick, and it went it went just right outside his blocker arm. Like, right. The more you have to move, the more you're gonna score goals.
Yeah. So I come with some numbers. I got there. Sorry for the delay, everyone. Shots are way down. So overall shots per game are about 1.5 less shots like per team per game. So, 3 overall for the full game. Compared to last season. And shots are at the lowest average per team per game since the offensive weapon of the 2001-2002 season. So we have the least amount of shots per game we've seen in about 20 years. On top of that, we're not going to dive into this. You guys are going to bully me. But like power play percentage is not a great stat because it doesn't include like how long it takes you to score on the power play. Like it treats like a 5-second power play and a 2-minute power play. Don't yell at me, Derek. Stop it. You should look at power play time, not power play percentage. Anyways, power play percentage is at its second highest in the last point as well. So like Jamie, there's your stuff. Is if we want to use the imperfect power play percentage stat.
God, Ben.
Don't yell at me. I told you nicely.
I have to. The point of the power play is to score.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So does it, you can't convince me that the length of the power play is more important than the result of the power play.
I'm not saying it's not more important. No,
power play percentage of goals on a power play is not important. It's the time power.
No, the time it takes to score a goal on the power play is what I was trying to say.
That more important than the actual result of scoring?
Because if you score 1 goal for every 9 minutes of power play time, you have a better understanding of how much you're going to, again, how efficient your power play is. It's just more information. It's not that different. It's fine. Don't yell.
I have to because it's nonsense.
Okay. Well, we'll agree to disagree. Moving on. Power plays are scoring more. There's your answer.
All right. So the chat desire is
telling me that I'm right all the time.
Okay. So what's like is exactly what Derek said. It's chances are the players are just better.
Yeah. Players are taking just better. I think players.
So there's less shots. There's more goals. So there's better shots being released. There's better plays being made. They're forcing the goalies to move. And when you force goalies to move and then they have good shots, you get more goals. It seems like that seems to be what the math is showing.
I think we can all agree that goaltending is not getting worse.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
The players are getting significantly better.
Yeah.
And I think coaching is getting better.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Across the board, like coaching in minor hockey is getting better. Coaching at the junior level is getting better. Coaching in college is getting better because there's more monetary incentive to coach at those levels, right? So coaching has gotten better. Skills coaches have popped up everywhere. So like the players are getting better. I don't think goaltending year to year is getting worse. I think it's getting better. I think the players are just very, very good. And the changes in technology, we understand have changed, and like what I wanted to say earlier when you guys were talking, or Jimmy talked about Joe Wall, and I don't want to go on too much of a detour here, but just a little tiny one, is perception of being on angle is the biggest lie that we tell. Like we understand positioning, we understand what angle is, we understand what squareness is, we understand what depth is. And those are the 3 foundations that make up your position. But the fact that we think a goalie can be perfectly on angle for a shot is ridiculous because players don't shoot in straight lines anymore. They'll get on their stick, they'll pull it one way or the other. And even if they pull it 6 inches, we are now off angle. So players have understood the difference of not shooting in straight lines and in shooting now out of like a drag or a push or moving laterally. And they're smarter. So like the idea of us saying, oh, he's off angle there. We're off angle 99% of the shots. And that is an accurate stat checked by Ben on his Google.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with the numbers there. I think that's exactly right. No complaints from me there. Actually, I want to take this detour, right? I think you guys are kind of getting where I think too. I think there's probably a little more flank play just because, yeah, defense changes. I think there's probably smarter rush chances happening. I have a weird take. This is a side note, but like rebounds across the league are up like a lot over the past few years. Has been a steady increase in the amount of rebound attempts per game. And I think that's because, Jamie, you always talk about this, but the traffic is just so bad now. There's so much traffic where stuff just hits goalies now and it's just there, right? Rebounds are just there. I also think players are so good that goalies are making more saves in less beneficial positions on the initial shot, which means they're going to have a harder time with the rebound. So I think you're seeing like that cross ice rebound off like the low pad off a backdoor one-timer, and it's like, well, there it's just in the net again. But I do want to talk about the angle change thing. Unless you guys have anything else you want to say with the flank stuff.
No, I think that what you said there was probably the most right thing we said today.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of that heat map stuff, I bet you a lot of those are rebounds. So it didn't really, that light bulb didn't go off my head. I was thinking initial shots, but yeah. But that's funny too, because shots are so far down that you're saying that rebound goals are more or less 2 shots, right? It's or multiple 3 shots. So you would think that if there's an increase in goals, and if there's an increase in rebound goals, the shot count would kind of even out. But
It's just like the death of the point shot. Like, guys just, yeah, I know. Thank God. Oh my goodness. Thank goodness. It's like from a fan perspective, there's nothing worse than the point shot just like hitting the first forward when there was 7 other bodies behind it who was also going to hit in like successive order. Yeah, I hate point shots. Everyone knows this. It's my biggest soapbox.
I want it's like the stat where it's like the majority of goals go on the ice. So everyone's like, yeah, you gotta shoot low all the time. Well, yeah, but it doesn't like all those rebounds.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's also like, this is the thing we talk about it a lot in the work that I do, is like, if you don't know the base rate and you just tell you like the thing, so it's like, you know, those images you see on Instagram where it's like 72% of shots from the left side went to the top right corner. You know, those stupid images? And I'm like, is this real? Yes. And I'm like, no, there's a 0% chance this is real. But it's like, those are really funny because there's no other information. Like, you have no idea how many times the guy tried to go top left or top right. It's like 72% of goals went in here. Sure. But you're shooting the puck 800% more in that spot than low, right? Like, so it doesn't matter. Just because all the goals, well, that's only where the shots are going. That's why the goals are going there. Like, it's so stupid without the base rate. But I did want to talk about the angle change thing because it's something that I have a hard time explaining to a lot of our older goalies. So for our younger goalies, yes, there's little guys who are changing angles all the time now. It's crazy how skilled 10, 11, 12-year-olds are now. It's crazy, right? But I have a hard time explaining this with our junior guys when the game is really fast, or our college goalies. Is not every pull and drag and shoot changes the angle enough to matter for the goalie, if you know what I mean. Right?
No, I had this conversation 4 times this weekend, actually.
So let's go. Let's dive it in.
okay, it's not. You're right. They don't move it enough that the goalie has to physically adjust, but they have to be aware that they are in a position now.
And that's the conversation I have. So Jamie, is that what you're also seeing?
Oh, yeah, and, like, the adjustment, even if it was just a little bit of, like, widening out or whatever, but it's more of the conversation I have majority of the time is showing them the relative angle change, or, like, the distance that the puck moves versus how much they have to move, which is why, the best part is when I have my shooters out, I ask my shooters this question. I say, "When you're coming across the middle and you toe drag, where are you trying to shoot?" And they all go back. But we all see goalies that, they see the player toe drag, and they all take massive shuffles with it, and they got shot back. So I had this conversation many times, and that's the same thing over and over again, where it's just like, it doesn't warrant you enough to have to move, no, but you can probably widen out, or if you do move, you can't be like outrageously liberal or large with your push. It's got to be very, very small and minimal. But I was saying in that Joseph Wall clip, first of all, it was a one-timer, so no angle change, and he did end up on angle to the body. But I get, like, and also the thing is too, is when I watch for another things is sometimes the angle of the camera changes what we see too. But sorry that I brought the Joseph Wall slander. We talked about his goal in. I offended everyone here as the lone non-Leaf fan on the pod. But that going back, man, that's the conversation that like I said I had multiple times this weekend, and I have it a couple times a week where it's just explaining that toe drags, and to the shooter's credit, they know that when they drag the puck, they get the goalie to move too much, and then they usually shoot back, or and then they score.
Yeah, I had a really good conversation a couple summers ago with a shooter who had just who was shooting for us in the summer who had 50 goals in junior A, which is like objectively, it's a lot of goals. And he said most of his goals that he scored in the rush was literally just dragging the puck and looking to see if the goalie would move. And if the goalie moved, he would shoot. And if the goalie didn't move, he would just keep hold of the puck and keep the rush active and look for a pass or something. Like, he was just looking for movement. He wasn't even wasn't looking to change the angle, do anything else. He was just trying to get the goalie to move. Now, that's a very smart shooter and someone who can react like that. So that's not every shooter. Sorry to the 4 shooters listening here. It might not be you.
This is my favorite thing that I do with like newer goalies that haven't worked with a lot is I'll have the puck on my stick. And if this is something that we're working on, change the angle, I'll just go a little toe drag and move it maybe 18 inches towards my body. And I'll say, okay, when I do this, what's it tell you I'm going to do? And they always say, oh, you're going to shoot. So then I pass it. And then I put it on my stick and I push it away from my body. And they're like, I'm like, what's this tell you I'm going to do? And they're like, you're going to pass. And then I shoot. So they're always like, well, I don't know what to think now. I'm like, exactly. I'm like, because the stick is going to lie. The stick is going to lie, but the puck is going to move in a straight line when it comes off your stick. It's not a baseball. It's not going to move and dive. It doesn't have laces. But you have to be able to process when it comes off of the stick. So the players are getting good at dragging it. And like you said, head up, see if the goalie moves, and then being able to make a choice. But just because he drags it doesn't mean he's going to shoot glove. It doesn't mean he's going to shoot blocker. It doesn't mean he's going to pass. All it means is that he dragged it. And when guys can understand that they have to be patient on the drag, then their ability to react to what happens next becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, that's like, well, maybe we'll save a lot of this conversation. There's a couple of the points that I put in our notes app about the younger goalies, but this is like I'm around a lot of other coaches all day, and what like we talk about, and I hear the way like the different styles and the different teaching points and the lectures that we go over and stuff like that. And one thing that I don't do in my teaching is like where we really focus on when the player comes in, is his stick open, is his stick closed? Just exactly what you said. Where is that stick open? Okay, that player's probably going to shoot. If it's closed, oh, he's going to pass. And that is a common teaching among a lot of different goalie coaches. And like I said, I don't really emphasize that in my coaching because the stick lies. And a player can come in, and players, especially at that older age, players are deceptive. Or when they come in like on a breakaway or a shootout attempt, like they close and open their sticks so fast that you don't have time to consciously identify, oh, that stick's open, they're obviously going to shoot. No, because they're trying to deceive you. And the example I always give is the first time Patrick Kane ever shot at me in a summer skate. Every time I was convinced he was going high, just 5-hole. It just didn't make any sense. Like, it actually did not make any sense at all. It's like how, and it was so frustrating because none of the shots went where they were quote unquote supposed to go. And it's just like, this is no wonder he scores so much. So I want to throw that in because that's something that I've disagreed with other goalie coaches, but something that I've heard others talk about, and I don't include that in my kind of teaching style.
Well, I have 2 things. One, I agree. I don't include it. I think the only time it makes sense is like the obvious stuff. Like, oh, this guy has the puck behind him and it's kind of off his stick. He's probably not going to get a great shot.
And I'm gonna cut you off there too. But then now you look at Austin Matthews and he shoots behind his hip, and skills coaches teach that. And now I have 14 U kids that can pick up a puck, receive a pass behind their body, and release it behind their body. And it doesn't make any sense how they do it, but they do it. And it's just like, that's probably why save percentage is going down, because we got 14-year-olds who are shooting, have better shots, and are more skilled than Division 1 players were 12 years ago when they were playing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I was just trying to give an example. Someone like bobbling a puck was probably not going to shoot it as it bounces in the air behind their back.
Yeah, and then they Michigan it from the slot. So like it's just that.
Then they pick it up like on the lacrosse stick with their 6 inches of wax on their stick and fling it across the ice. You know what? You're coming off. I forgot my point.
Sorry, you're saying up top of this out. You cut the coaching philosophies.
No, can't stick, sus.
All right, podcast is over.
Well, I got a question for you guys. Talk about goals going up and save percentage going down. Conceptually, what do we think a healthy save percentage, and let's talk NHL because that's the league that matters, a save percentage that actually should be reflected in the game? Like with the days of 931, 932, 929, like that was a boring game to watch.
Oh, Ben, I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna go first, Ben, because you're gonna have an actual stat to it, and I don't have actual stats.
I don't think it's an actual stat. I think this is like legitimately, this is just an opinion based. Like, what do we feel? What do we think? Like, I think if you're like 905 to 909, like to me, like that's where I think the game is actually fun. Like I mean, I don't watch a lot of OHL hockey, but I watch a little bit of OHL hockey, and the OHL hockey is incredibly fun to watch because you have some guys that are going to be in the NHL in 6 months, and you have some guys that will be in junior B in a couple months, and you have them playing against each other. So there's a ton of mistakes by very, very good hockey players, and it makes for an incredibly fun game to watch. And if you look historically, save percentages in the OHL, if you're around 900 or slightly above or slightly below, you're probably in the top 5 of the league. Now, this year's a little bit different, and things may have kind of come back to the mean. But last time I think we checked, I think there was 19 goalies in the OHL with 900 and above. That's probably going to end up, where it usually ends up by the end of the year. But that's a fun game to watch. Oh, yeah. Watching a 925 and 931 save percentage, if it's across the board, oh my God, that's going to be boring.
Yeah, I was gonna say my number before Ben comes in with with whatever data he has. I would say anything above a 900 in the NHL. I'm pretty happy with that based on the way that the game is going and the game is changing. Not the NHL, it's the USHL, but I know like one of our goals at the start of the year was even said like if we can keep it to 3 goals against a game, we'll be in a good spot because it's such a high scoring league. Now, again, this year has been a little bit different across the league, but usually you hear 2 goals or less. This is what we want. But coaching staff acknowledges that there's a lot of goals and the players are super skilled. And to be fair, the USHL, I mean, this is obviously going to change in the future. Who knows what's going to happen? But the USHL is very deep. The third and fourth lines on almost all teams are the equivalent of their same first and second lines, versus in major junior there is, like you said, there's more of a quick drop off. It's also, since we're talking about the USHL and major junior, let's also talk about the NCAA rules. I do actually think that that's going to change in the major junior. Is I think teams are going to get deeper because you're going to get more of those best players that would have gone to college, and so you're going to have deeper lines, and those players that would be playing junior B after a year or two aren't going to get those opportunities because they've been replaced by better players across the board.
But scoring will go up.
I do think scoring will go up because everyone's going to be so good, and the goalies haven't finished developing yet as goalies.
Be the same goalies. Like they're still going to be the goalies that aren't ready yet.
Yeah.
But with all these rule changes, yeah, you're right. The high end forwards are going to come in the league. The high end defensemen that are playing that league, they haven't been taught the defensive side yet. They're still in that age where it's offense gets you drafted, right? Like it's not very often the defensive defenseman is getting drafted in the first 10, in the first round of top 10, right? It's the offensive defenseman that is dynamic, because you draft a dynamic defenseman, you can teach him the defensive side.
Yeah.
Like Cale Makar is not a guy who you can just create unless you're playing NHL 25 and you make a player. But like that is what every 11-year-old, 12-year-old is trying to be. And I know this because I work with a lot of defensemen in the last year, and I'm trying to create dynamic defensemen that, like, it's like, hey, let's try and teach you to do the things that Cale Makar does. You're not Cale Makar. Let's not get carried away. But we want you to be able to be dynamic like a Cale Makar. Because when you're 15, 16, 17, if you're not that type of player, then I can teach you to play a simplified defensive game.
Yeah, there's absolutely there's a lot of stuff there. So like off the bat, there's some pretty interesting research that's shown that, like, on average, it's a lot harder to miss on the defenseman in the first round than miss on a forward in the first round of the draft. That makes sense because what you just said, right there. Like, you see a guy who's got, like, really big offensive upside. There's just not that many D that have that, so they stand out, right? They're like, "Oh, yeah, that's someone who's." And don't before everyone yells at me about, like, Griffin Reinhardt, relax. Everyone, relax. All right? Like, it's not just because it's better doesn't mean it's perfect. Like, sports are complicated. No one come after me about, like, Yale Yakupov, Yale Nakupov? Yeah, exactly. I do come with the stats to get us back on the save percentage topic. So I'm using Money Puck. Shout out Money Puck. When you get around 900, around the 900 mark in save percentage this year, is when you start finding goalies who are letting in more than they should. When you think about, like, goals above expected. But it doesn't happen before that. So, like, to give you, like, an idea of where or what is good save percentage, this year, stably positive save percentage. So that means positive goals above expected and positive save percentage starts at about 907. So, like, that's the gap. It's like if you're above 907, you're probably positive on goals above expected. But, like, that's not high from, like, what we're used to. Or what society is like, oh, the 920 goaltender, right?
Yeah, but we were also like, I'm older than you guys by 10 years. We came into like I came out of growing up where a good goals against average was like around 325.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it went to like unless you were under 2, you weren't making the All-Star game. And that happened within about 8 years. Like, it went Amphier winning Stanley Cups and winning Vezinas with a 335 goals against average to Dominic Hasek having a 174 and a 937 save percentage in within a blink of an eye. So I think, yeah, when you say 906, it's like, yeah, we're not used to that, but we'll get used to it because that would make a fun game. That to me is a game where we enjoy watching. And like, it was 4-0 last night, and with 18 minutes left, and I'm like, this game is over. And within 13 minutes, it's 4-3, and I'm like, oh my god, this is a game. Like, it was an fun period.
Yeah. Yeah, I again, for what it's worth, I agree. Maybe that makes us bad goalie people, but goals are fun. Like, and this is maybe again another small side bit, but I know that with some of our younger goalies, I'm always like, hey, like, they'll get upset when they get scored on, like, really upset, like, too upset. And I'm like, guys, it's like, that's the game. The game is getting scored on. Like, literally, that is a critical part of the game. It's okay. Not going to be perfect.
Next time you have a group of 4 goalies, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't even matter the ages, really. Levels does kind of skew it a little bit, but let's just say you have 4 AA goalies. If you ask them how many games you played last year and how many shutouts you got, almost across the board, it's going to be about, I played 35 games each. So roughly, if 4 goalies, you have about 140 games total that they played last year. And I bet you're around 9 shutouts.
Yeah,
Right. So roughly, like, this would go, but based off of the conversations I've had, roughly every group will be about 94 to 96% of the games they play, they get scored. So the goalies that go into games expecting shutouts or hoping for shutouts, I'm like, there is a 96% chance that every game you play, you're going to get scored on. There's only 4% of the games will you get a shutout. So why do we expect ourselves to be perfect and expect to get a shutout? And then when we do get scored on in that game, we get upset about it. If you go into that game being like, there's a 96% chance I get scored on this game, and then the first shot goes in, does that not just take all the pressure off you? Like,
Oh, it's yeah, and again, like, I fully agree with that. Like, and I know we talked about it, but it's like, it's okay, like, to also have goalies get shelled early. Like you said a few weeks ago, we were talking about all the change in the size of the nets and the rinks. Like, goals are really fun. Like, goals are so much fun. They also make, like, the more scoring goes up, the cooler big saves are, right? Like, people realize that, right? Like, the bigger the importance, like, those massive saves become. because there's just so many goals. It's like when a goalie, again, shout out soccer, when a goalie stops a penalty kick in soccer, it's like the greatest thing ever. Like everyone is so because it just doesn't happen very much, right?
Because as people like as goalies listening to it, as soon as we talk about goals going in, or the number of goals going up, we immediately think goalies are getting worse.
Yeah.
And then we think we're becoming bad. And on the other side of that, there's this massive belief that everything needs to be shutouts. I think a lot of that comes from us as coaches, or as like, the mental coaches and things, where it's everything. It's you're visualizing perfect games. Everything has to be perfect, 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 perfect. Where it's just like, man, just play the game. When the 60 minutes, or when you're a kid, whatever it is, 45 minutes, then the time's up, like, check the score. Like, focus on the next shot. Focus on the next shot. That's all that matters. Make the save if you can. If you don't, okay, just focus on the next shot. But we hammer home this, just shut this thing down. Goalie's got to steal one. Head coaches, oh my gosh, if I have to hear a head coach say, my goalie's got to steal another, I want my goalie to steal again. Like, what do you? Yeah, man, I would love my goalies to steal every single game. That's not how it works, though. Oh my gosh, it just doesn't stop. It's like 12-year-olds too. It's like, 12-year-olds couldn't steal it.
I have a funny story from today. So we were watching a game, doing some recruiting stuff, and a goalie went out and played the puck. This is a junior game. Went out and played the puck, and like their D just did not communicate. It was on their team was on the power play. Like their D did not communicate. They were like basically in the corner, like a head face in the glass. No communication. Like I was right by the glass. Or no one saying anything. So they fling the puck around, gets picked off, and they get scored on. Coach pulls the goalie 1-0 immediately. Just like,
We had a podcast where we said, don't jump on the head coaches. But sometimes they'd be shot with a paintball gun.
it was like 7 minutes into the game. The game was 1-0. Starting goalie's just out of the game for making I'm not even sure it's a mistake. Like if your goalie, we all saw the Charlie Lindgren backhand into the empty net earlier this week.
Yeah.
So
I got a funny story that kind of parallels Ben's. U18 game, female hockey. Goalie goes out and plays the puck and misses it, and the player pressures and then puts it in an empty net. At the intermission, so this was late in the second period, and they get a flood between the second and third. At the intermission, the mom runs downstairs, knocks on the door, calls the coach out and says, "You tell my daughter never to play the puck ever again. She's never allowed to go play the puck." And the coach is like, "I'm asking her to go play the puck. Like, it's okay." So we have a head coach that's trying to get his goalie comfortable, and we got mom running up from the stands and yelling in front of a group of 40 people, "Never again. She never leaves the crease ever again."
Oh, you know what I love? So I always, I speak highly of Fox, obviously, because it's a great organization. I haven't had any of the coaches.
Is there a bias statement there?
Yeah,
a statement there.
I haven't had any of the coaches angry, but actually many of the coaches have just straight up said in the middle of practice, our goalies are going to play the puck a lot, and they are going to turn it over a lot, and sometimes they're going to get scored, and that is okay, because all you players turn it over, and it always costs them goals. And he says, so I don't want to hear it when our goalie turns it over. And I was just like, I remember one coach said at practice, and I was like, this is so, I'm so happy right now.
Yeah, that guy.
Hey, babe, you won't believe what happened at work today.
Yeah, that's one for the record books for sure. But no, it's all those factors that go to it. But anyways, to get back to save percentage, or one of our topics today, it's like, and we've talked about this before in like team defense and team structure, right? But some of the highest save percentage in this league for goalies who like actually play games. Like I'm not talking about Akira Schmid's one game shutout, where they played like a period, like 23 minutes, and they have 1,000 save percentage. We're not talking about that. But like you look at the two save percentage leaders amongst starting goalies in the NHL this year, it's Philip Gustafson and Connor Hellebuck. Have you ever watched the Jets and the Wild play a hockey game? Because it happened just a week ago and it ended 1-0. Like, so some stuff is just out of your control as a goalie. And like, even at the NHL level, right? There's teams that play really offensively structured systems. We're just going to give up more stuff. Like New Jersey doesn't really play defense. Like they think they do, but they don't. And so, like, their goalies are not going to have, like, Jake Allen's got a 903 save percentage. Markson's got a 901 save percentage. They're about league average because, like, they have to deal with a lot of nonsense because that's the way their team plays, right? Like, those are things that all matter or all relevant, I think. So, all this to say, yeah, save percentage is going to keep going down. I'm kind of fine with it. I don't think that's a reflection on goaltending. I think that's a reflection on, like, hockey players are really good and the technology with equipment's really good. And the creativity of some of the young players is so impressive.
Just him to be creative now.
So, yeah.
Like coaches tried to create, coaches tried to coach offense. And like, that's one thing I learned is like, you cannot coach offense.
No.
Just let them do you have to let them do it. Let them be creative. Because like, I honest to God, I don't think you can teach somebody to finish.
No, it's like the same idea. I agree for what it's worth. Like, I think it's like the same idea as like reading the play with goaltenders. Like, all that coaches should really try to do is provide learning environments where they can figure that out for what works for them, right? Because like how Jamie reads a play and how you read a play, Derek, and how I read a play is going to look different based on our skating abilities, our tracking. Like, there's so much individual factors to it that we can't give a blanket approach to it. We can give general guidelines, but it's going to look different for everyone. I had a story. I played when I went down to the States to play. I played in a team where our first three forwards were committed to Boston University, Boston College, and Harvard, and they played together. And our coach only had one rule for them, which is if you dump the puck, you're sitting, like benched. Like, whatever you do, don't dump the puck in this league. I want you to try everything and anything to make offense happen. Like, that was the approach. Didn't tell them how to do it. Just said, don't dump the puck. Do something with it. And again, I'm not saying that's a perfect strategy either, because sometimes you gotta dump the puck. Like, sometimes you gotta do it. What's that like?
Nightmare.
What'd you say?
As a goalie, that's a nightmare statement.
But it was like they scored like 4 goals a game. It was just like but again, like those guys went on, like all 3 of them had pro careers, right? Like, unsurprisingly, but like that's a way. I'm not saying that's the solution to coaching either, but it's like for how long in minor hockey was it like get over the red line, dump the puck, forecheck hard, pucks in deep, gotta get. It's like that strips away a huge part of the game, and like that's still a skill kids need to learn. They need to learn how to forecheck. They need to learn how to retrieve the puck. Defenders need to learn how to retrieve and escape. Like, all those things are necessary, but like don't coach offense out of players. And I think that's what we're seeing now. You're right. It's like a generation of skills coaches who have promoted creativity and problem solving, and coaches who aren't taking away identities from 11 and 12-year-olds. And now they're
right. So before we're getting towards the end of the pod, but I do have one question for you guys. I'd like to pick your opinion on it, because we've all heard this before. Nothing through you, nothing underneath you. Obviously, like, sometimes a guy comes in, like, you don't want to give up a 5-hole goal. I'm curious of your thoughts. I'm going to leave it open-ended. I'm curious of your thoughts on that statement when we coach goalies.
I think you and me are probably on the same page because I think we've had this conversation a lot. So
Not in terms of sliding. That is a whole other conversation. We talk about sliding, but just in general.
what are we talking about sliding for?
Oh, when we slide, it's like you got to slide perfectly boxed in, and you can't open up on a slide, even though the one side of the net's open.
No. That's so stupid. No.
We know that's stupid, but just in general, that's statement. Nothing through you, nothing under you.
So this is on a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben can go because I know me and you probably have the same idea.
I fundamentally don't think there's any difference if a puck goes through your arm or around your arm. It went in and you didn't make the save. And I think there's a number of reasons why a puck would go around you or go through you. That's my answer. Like, if a puck goes through your arm, okay. Like, stop it. We'll figure out a way to stop that. Like, are you playing with your elbows pointing towards both other boards so there's a giant hole there? Like, I don't, if a puck goes post in, let's say the shooter's coming in inside the top of the circle in line with the dots, and they put a puck post in over your blocker, or they put a puck in through your arm under your blocker. I view that as the exact same result. I don't treat those any different. That's
That is
the thought.
so factually accurate of you, Ben. Thank you, Derek.
Goals are goals.
But like, what? You don't get more points for going underneath the goalie's arm, and you also don't get like you don't. It's not a worse. Like the puck went in, you didn't stop it, and there's
We should make 5-hole goals 2 goals. Like, oh, I blast. Like 3-4. Everyone's just aiming 5-hole.
That is the message that I send to like when I do all my player development because they all want to go high, right? Like the bar down has ruined young hockey players because that's all they want. And I'm like, you get 2 goals for that is the same as 1. Like if you put it 5-hole, it's still the same. So my view on I'll go like just 5-hole. And so the way I look at it is I want my goalies to be patient. If I'm going to get them to be patient and hold their feet so that they can make better reads, it is going to absolutely increase the amount of goals that they have given up over the course of a year of file. But I can almost guarantee, I can't quantify it and I can't prove it, but I can probably tell you at the end of the year, they have now given up less goals over them or around them if they've been patient. So, I mean, tell that to a head coach. Yeah, right. Like that guy walked off the wall, beat our goalie 5-hole. And I'm like, I like that goal because he's trying to be patient. Yeah, right. Like you're going to get chewed on. But I understand the process of the thought is I'm asking you to be patient enough to make the reads and not just drop and go down early. So yeah, if I tell you at the end of the year, you're going to give up 5 more goals 5-hole, but you're going to stop 8 more goals over your shoulders because you're patient, that's a +3. Now
I love that.
Right? Like we can't quantify that because it's not something that's happened. But that would be my thing is yeah, like 5-hole goals used to bug me a lot. Now it's kind of like, all right, I understand why that puck went in and I understand the process in your head and I like that play. Now, scouts and head coaches will completely disagree, but that there is a process to that thought.
Yeah, I agree. I brought that up because I had a conversation with a goalie coach, and that was what was said. Like nothing through you, nothing underneath you, and I never like really like thought and chewed on that until like later, and I got in the car and I was like, I didn't agree with that because sometimes like the 6 over the pad under the glove.
Very
A lot of times people will say that that's qualifies 3. That is like the hardest puck to stop. Sometimes people just take one-timers and it goes through your arm. Sometimes people take one-timers and it goes bar down. So what would you have done? It's the same answer. It's like, oh, I would have moved my glove into the shot, or oh, I would have leaned my body into it. Yeah, but you didn't. So, well, what do you need? Like, where's the conversation going? That we get like everything. You can only like if we're so preoccupied with nothing through us, then we're going to try to block everything, and we're never going to have active hands because it doesn't matter. Because that would be like it doesn't matter if we get beat over outside our body as long as it's not going through us. So like that's not one that I love. Also the first time ever really thinking about that phrase.
Right. And the other thing that people like really don't, especially non-goalie people don't understand that, okay, if we want to protect a 5-hole, then we have to go down early. If we go down early, the amount of rebounds we give up is exponentially higher. So now we become goalies that can't control rebounds because we're protecting the 5-hole. So like there's a double-edged sword to everything.
The whole like look the whole I had a really good conversation with the guy who works in researching the NHL about this is the entire game is trade-offs, right? The entire game is a trade-off of a decision, and you're hopefully making the one that gives you more advantages than disadvantages, right? Like that's just the whole game. And I think, and again, it sounds like we're all really on the same page here. But like, if I'm evaluating a goalie or I'm coaching a goalie and they give up a 2-on-1 shot through the arm, the player comes in, takes a shot, scores through the arm on the 2-on-1. My evaluation is nothing to do with the puck went through their arm. My evaluation is entirely like, did you play the rush correctly? right? Like, what were the circumstances that led to a clean shot beating you, not a clean shot where it beat you or how it beat you directly, right? Especially with older goalies too. Like, again, at some point, stuff just does go in, and it's like, yeah, it sucks, right? But like, if that person went short side bar down, are you like, why are you less happy? Like, they should have probably also made that save too. Like, it's like we just assign credit to better shots, or what looks better. Like you said, Derek, could want to go bar down because it sounds cool and looks cool, right? But like, it's not inherently a better shot. Like a shot from 20 feet out that goes bar down. If a goalie butterflies, that's a save that like is at their shoulder. It's like at their shoulder height as the puck passes them. You're like, oh, it looks like a great shot. It's like, well, when it beats you, it just means your hands were dead in the water. You just didn't use your hands at all, right?
Yeah, I love this because we all have the same conversations, and we're all in our own little echo chamber here. But one of my younger goalies, U14 level, she was frustrated because they do a video with her coach, and her coach would be like, "You got to stand up on these shots from like the hash mark." Just like I had to explain to her, your head coach is not a goalie. Like, he doesn't know what it's like. Two, if you can read it perfectly and you know it's going high and you stand up, sure, great. I just don't want you standing up, being so preoccupied and being so overpatient that you stand up and they beat you low. But also, going down isn't an issue if your hands go up. Like, your hands can go up while your legs go down. You would be surprised. People don't know this, but they don't have to move in unison. So I just explained to her, like, if you're watching everything, you're watching that puck and you're tracking the puck. And I told her, I was like, where you're struggling is you're not watching the puck very well. And so when the puck's coming, your hands are either moving back and all these other things. But again, same conversation, like, make sure your hands need to go to the puck. If it's shot high, your hands have to go to the puck. Whatever your feet are doing, it doesn't matter as much as long as it's not pulling you away from the puck. Like, as long as you're not guessing or center shifting the other way.
Agree. That's my agree one. Maybe this will be the last thing to kind of wrap up on is if we all have kind of actually I want to do Jamie. You normally say this is our parting shot, but I want to say like
I have my parting shot actually set up. So finish your shot, and then we'll go into our parting shots.
I was gonna say that. What if we do? Well, I don't want to run it then. I was gonna say my favorite thing that I've been saying. Well, I've been saying this for a long time to goalies is, and it's not perfect, but again, it's the messaging behind it. Is I always say that I don't care if you went down on the high shot. I care that your hands went down with you, right? Like, I don't care if you butterfly on a shot that goes bar down. Did you try to catch the puck, or did your hands go into your hips and then you went ole and tried to windmill me and missed? Like, did you watch the puck or did you just butterfly? Like, those are two different events, right? Like, you watch a goalie get beat bar down over the shoulder with their hands in a 2006 JSG Gear butterfly, and that's not good by the goalie. You get a goalie beat over the shoulder as they try to drive their arm up, and they're like, yeah, that'll happen sometimes. It's not a good shot. Like, that's still the right save selection, right? Okay, Jamie, take us away.
Agreed. Let's go to our parting shots. So this was my topic for the day, but parting shots. Today is December 1st. We're recording. You'll be listening. Well, this drops on December 4th. Wednesday is the 4th. Third or 4th. Yeah, 4th. The holidays are coming up. Parting shots. Everyone gets to pick one goalie-related Christmas gifts or whatever you celebrate gift that you would give a goalie. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be like, hey, I'm giving you a barbell because your legs are weak. Although it could be a barbell because your legs are weak. Just something goalie related that you think would be a good gift for a goalie of any age.
Derek, you start us off. You got something good?
What did you get, Weston? So what did you get, Weston?
A mystery mini goalie stick. That's the one thing I get. And those things are going like hotcakes. So yeah, go buy a mystery mini. But no, if we're talking about something to put in your bag, magic stick or sweet stick, whatever we want to. The sharp go in like this. Yep, that it has to be in every goalie's bag. If not that, then I would say if you're a parent and your son's a goalie, buy him some peg covers or some post covers, like rubber for practice, because they're not going to be at the arena. So if the kid has his own post covers, you can put them on for practice and he doesn't have to worry too much about his blades, but then also buy the sweet stick because those things are sick.
Yeah, those are a great one. I got a really easy one. Like, again, it's something that I've thought like a lot about as like a pretty good gift, and that is a subscription to the EGM Labs app. Your only one-stop shop chance to get video and online remote coaching through Jamie Phillips. Folks, he used to be on Patreon, but he's not there anymore. It's in development with a proprietary app at EGM Labs. You can find Jamie at Jamie Phillips 31 on Instagram, and you can also find him at Ghost Rehab for those proprietary and serviceable physical therapy needs in the state of Michigan. If you have a loved one or a child in the state of Michigan, contact Jamie Phillips at EGM Labs for your Christmas and holiday gifts.
Hey, well, I definitely appreciate the Labs app is not ready yet. Ghost Rehab is almost built, still doing concierge home visits. But do you have I appreciate it. So hopefully everyone signs up, because building a clinic is not cheap. But do you have a gift that you would recommend then for a goalie parent?
I'm gonna
Or send to the
do a bit of a weird one here, which is I have this conversation with parents all the time, because they like to do like an equipment buy for holidays, which makes sense. Like, equipment is so expensive. It's a great time that justifies your family's financial situation. I'm gonna give a recommendation to parents on this one, which is don't surprise your kid with equipment. Get them to go try it. Get sure that it's the right size. Make sure your kid is gonna like it. You can do it a little more creatively, and if you already know what your kid likes and everything, but just don't. Again, like, kids are so are available they know what's out there. They know what their friends have. They know what pros have, right? Don't go buy them the protocol stick with the 77 P77 and the whatever flex or P28 and the 77 flex stick if they've never tried it. You know what I mean? Like go try stuff. Goal equipment is so expensive. Go make sure your kid is if they're going to be happy with that purchase if you're going to do an equipment buy in the holidays. That's my recommendation.
My recommendation, 3 quick ones. The first is those little studded like reaction balls that when you can drop in any direction. Really good warm up. I use them my entire career. Second, I was gonna say mystery minis, but that was a good one too.
I don't know what those are. What's a mystery mini?
It's basically they're mini sticks that Bauer makes, but the bag is blacked out, and so you don't know what you're getting, and they're like replica of like real sticks, and way better than the all white mini sticks we had growing up.
This sounds like gambling.
Yeah, basically. And then I would say some second one is good pegs. I mean, I am on the big peg train here, but even if it's just a little spike pegs that you keep in your bag, and I know a lot of times goalies do that and will put it in their own net for games, especially if they ask the refs permission. And then finally, if you can, I would say go schedule a session at a sports vision training clinic, because I think that's really fun, and then you get a lot of good vision activities and like drills that you can do on your own outside of hockey that are just fun to do. And maybe if you'll find out that you have different deficiencies in your eye musculature, and you get that addressed nice and early. Okay, that's all I got.
Yeah, that's great. I think that was really wonderful. Everyone, thank you as always for listening to the Goalie Science Podcast. As we approach into December, again, always a nice time to get extra thankful around the holidays. So we're thankful for everyone who listens, tunes in, shares, and just talks to myself, Derek, Jamie in the ranks, and come up and says that you enjoy the content. We're happy to do it. It's an excuse for us to get together away from our wives. Although I really like my wife. I want that on the record.
The last week I said that I had 2 weeks where nobody came up to talk to me randomly at the arena. Well, that day I had somebody come up to me and tell me how much they liked our podcast, and they actually watch on YouTube. So so that is one of the 300 people that we get to watch on YouTube. So like I said before, is I love talking hockey. I'll talk hockey all day, every day if I possibly could, whether it's goalies or just hockey. So if anybody sees me in an arena, I'm going to keep the mustache so you know who I am. Come say hi. And yeah.
And shout out Gavin Melcher. Had a tough go the last couple months. Didn't play any games. Weird situation. Then got 2 starts back to back. 2 wins, 1 goal against in 2 games after 2 months off. So shout out Gavin Melcher and the Cornwall Colts.
Great shout out. All right, everyone. Until next time.
Yes.